Alright, so look, the term LARP has been thrown around recently in pop culture, and I think it perfectly describes everything wrong with the community. Not in the sense that the words being used wrong, I mean it perfectly articulates the issue we have with our community. And in this video, I'm going to be exposing multiple LARPers on my Wolverine versus Black Panther video, because the comment section is quite literally flooded with just dumbass opinions. And the best part is, a lot of these opinions would have been squashed if these literal LARPers just picked up the book and read it instead of pretending to give a fuck about comic books. My name's Abyss from the Hive Mind Comics, and let's get into the video. Let's start with the first dumbass, Big Ruben 97, because he typed like 8 paragraphs in one comment just to get everything wrong. This is what I mean with LARP. We could have just read the comic books and came to an actual proper conclusion. For one, if we read, we would have learned that Ultron's body isn't actually made from true adamantium. It's a significantly weaker version of adamantium called secondary adamantium. Wolverine's adamantium was true adamantium that got merged with his healing factor to create beta adamantium. Meaning, the properties of Ultron's body and Wolverine's metal are not the same thing. Therefore, you cannot congruently apply one property to the other. But let's just say you can. Let's look into what you said will happen. T'Challa disrupted the neurons in Ultron's brain? No. Ultron is a robot, so the energy within the daggers disrupted the electronics in Ultron. So again, let's assume this applies congruently, even though logically it shouldn't. Wolverine's electricity in his brain is going to get disrupted or whatever. What they fucking do? Because we would have learned Wolverine fights without the use of his brain. His body is able to move without any use of thought. Therefore, despite his brain being hindered, his body will still react accordingly, meaning Wolverine is still going to gut him. Black Panther, having beaten Wolverine before, like how he says in this comment, was already addressed in my first video. So if you want to understand why none of that actually matters because Wolverine was weakened or disadvantaged in literally every single one of their fights, you can go ahead and watch my original video where I directly attacked all of these points. So this next comment is another example of this guy Ruben deciding to turn his brain off when watching a video because the video directly attacks his points. He says simply because T'Challa ran into a strike from Logan, that means he's faster. Now, this conclusion is already wrong because that's not how the speed formula works, especially when you take into account the fact that Logan didn't swing whilst T'Challa was running at him. But let's completely ignore that because that's not the point that was made that was substantial in this specific argument. Logan specifically holds back his speed depending on the opponent he's fighting. And because the dialogue directly tells us that Logan wasn't aware of T'Challa's speed, he himself wasn't operating at his normal speed capacity, whilst also being weaker because his soul is missing. 2 arguments I brought up specifically on this point. So if this showing does show that T'Challa is faster, T'Challa would be faster than a significantly slower version of Wolverine. So I asked the question, Big Ruben 97, are you an idiot? Or did you just not watch the video? So this point may actually be the dumbest one yet. At 11:11, you literally showed this game previously of T'Challa trying to control and concentrate the harnessing of the Phoenix's power. Well, Big Ruben 97, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Western comic books actually go from top left to bottom right when reading sequence of events. Because if you look at the panels I used in the comic book and we go back to the comic book, we would see that the events I'm talking about happen before the Phoenix Force sends more power to T'Challa and he's trying to concentrate on harnessing it. Now, when Black Panther fans are losing any argument in terms of skill, they always revert to the same dumbass point because none of them have read the book that this sentiment comes from. The idea that T'Challa is super skilled because he has the experiences of past Black Panthers comes from a book of Fantastic Four when he gets the King of the Dead power. All the statement says is that T'Challa has the strength and the experience of the past Black Panthers. For some reason, people like to believe this means that all of the fighting skill that the past Black Panthers have is instantly in the abilities of T'Challa, when every application of the King of the Dead power doesn't suggest this whatsoever. All this means is that he has the ability to seek counsel with the past Black Panthers because their consciousness is stored within him. He can call upon them to gain their experience and wisdom for set events. This is what happens in New Avengers. If Black Panther had all of their experiences downloaded within him, ready to go at any time, why the fuck would he need to converse with them over anything? He already knows what they would do and say because that information is stored within him, right? But no, Black Panther fans don't use their brain. But just for a second, let's say that this is actually the case and he does have the experience or fighting skill of all the past Black Panthers. Who the fuck are these guys? What skills do they have? Do you know? Because I sure as hell don't. You know why? We never see them fight. Nobody. They're a bunch of nameless bums who we assume are supposed to be great. Do you think the experience of 1,000 5-year-old Taekwondo students would mean anything if you had to go and fight John Jones? If you're sensible, you would say fuck no. So why do you think nameless bums from a million years ago have any relevance in fighting skill when compared to somebody like Wolverine? But sorry, I asked too much from Black Panther fans to use some critical thinking. Ooh, this is the worst part. Whenever Spider-Man gets brought up in a comic discussion, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be a LARPer. And unfortunately, Big Ruben 97 is all of the above. Let's first go over this. The symbiote never has and never will increase the physical attributes of Peter Parker. In fact, it is directly outlined to have not increased his superhuman abilities whatsoever because Spider-Man was already superhuman. But no! Nobody reads the character they're talking about. Now, this next part about Miles and Peter, this also just isn't true. No, it's never been stated that Miles is just as fast as Peter. That shit has never happened. You say this has been proven 4 times already. When exactly? Every single time Miles and Peter have fought, Peter subconsciously holds back. So if Miles is going relative to a holding back Peter, why does this now mean that Miles is as fast as a non-holding back Peter? We know Miles isn't as fast as Peter because when they both fight Black Panther, Spider-Man is significantly faster to the point where, joking around, he's outpacing Black Panther, where Miles, when trying, cannot do the same. Now, this second part about them both being from the same pantheon, therefore they have to be equals, is beyond stupid because there's no evidence to suggest this whatsoever. But if just simply being a god is supposed to make you fast, Wolverine is directly compared to gods. So if Black Panther and Spider-Man and Wolverine are all in this god tier, quote unquote, who's to say Wolverine's pantheon and Wolverine's gods aren't just faster and stronger than Spider-Man? You see how that whole line of reasoning is just stupid? Why Black Panther fans think he's Batman is beyond me. T'Challa is stated to train or come up with plans, but these plans have never been executed in any meaningful way. Does he have contingency plans for Wolverine? That shit is never explained, never stated, never shown. It's this made-up idea that Black Panther fans want to believe. But let's just say he did. Where was the contingency plan for a regular cowboy who absolutely embarrassed him? But that's neither here nor there. T'Challa has adamantium nanobots he used on Amadeus' Cho Hulk. This is a classic case of not reading the character you're arguing against. Why would these nanobots be effective towards Wolverine? In the last time nanobots were used on Logan, they couldn't enter his body naturally. His healing factor restricted it. This is why everyone had to cover their airways and entrances to their bodies, and Logan didn't. The only way for this to work is if you directly implant them into Logan. And based on the arguments and the fights itself, T'Challa would never have the chance to do so. This argument is literally equivalent to saying, oh, I have a gun, so I could shoot the Flash. Yeah, okay, sure. But based on the Flash's overwhelming speed, do you really think you're going to shoot him? And for the final point of his comment thread, he tries to use Sabretooth as a valid metric to gauge T'Challa over Logan, which really just goes to show he doesn't read any Wolverine books and barely reads T'Challa. Sabretooth is a fucking Wolverine victim. It's not close. It hasn't been close since the 80s. Even very weakened versions of Logan fucking fodderized Sabretooth. And I like how the example you used of T'Challa being above Sabretooth is House of M, when reality was completely warped and characters were very different. But in mainline 616 continuity, when T'Challa fights Sabretooth, he struggles. heavily. But I'm not surprised that you didn't know that, because you're clearly a LARPer. So, now that we've addressed the dumbest of the bunch, let's go over the rest of these dumb comments.
Can't get his gadgets off. What the fuck? His tech is built in.
Since when does something being built in mean its activation is instantaneous? You think T'Challa's energy daggers are always out? So what's this here? Him telling Komoyo to change the output of his energy daggers. If it's built in, he should just be able to use it whenever, just however he wants, right? Even in the Phoenix Force fight, he has the ability to use his energy manipulation. Why doesn't he just pop it immediately right here? Why does it take him time to do so? Obviously, because he has to choose to activate it. This invisibility gadget or ability that Black Panther has is quite literally useless. I don't know why people pretend like it's gonna be good against Logan. Because Logan's enhanced senses just lets him see invisible shit. He can fight blinded. His senses give him this infrared vision so he can see through walls. Like I don't know why people pretend like these abilities are gonna do anything. Speed enhancers. This shit quite literally does not exist. Only been one time he's shown to be able to increase his speed, and that was in Heroes Reborn when 616's reality was completely altered and characters were different than what they normally are. Is Gohan from future Trunks' timeline the same Gohan we see in the Buu Saga? No, because reality operates differently when different conditions are met. This one is another interesting one. Because if you just read the comic, man, like every single time, just read the comic. It's that easy. You point out how Ock isn't holding back. But in the same sentence that we learned that Ock isn't holding back, he introduces that concept to us by directly comparing him not holding back to Logan actually holding back. And one of the things that he notes to not be holding back that Logan is indeed holding back is his speed. So why does a non-holding back Spider-Man dunking on a holding back Logan now mean that there's a massive speed gap? Now, this one's actually a common misconception, so I'm not too mad at it, but it's still dumb and just exposes Wolverine LARP. Go to Wolverine's mainline run, his second one, the ongoing that lasted for over 300 issues. Professor X outlines explicitly that despite being in Berserker's rage, he is still a skilled fighter who's capable of very complex and sophisticated battle strategy, despite having lost himself in his rage. So please, just shut the fuck up. Now, that's all the arguments that I'm willing to address in this video. To this guy who's pretending like he's a threat or some like crazy Black Panther debater, I promise you, I've debated better Black Panther debaters than yourself. So if you really want to debate it, sure, we could do it. Just let me know the time. And that's gonna be the end of the video. Thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully you learned something new. And the moral of this story, don't LARP comic book characters that you've never read before. Thanks, y'all have a good night. Easy.